This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, how you doing today?
Hello.
Josh and I are back hanging out with you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here.
Mm-hmm.
You had a pretty good weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah? You've been busy, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So today, let's talk about communication.
Okay.
That sounds alright?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just going to jump right into it here. So if you're a person with autism, communication can be extremely stressful, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So my understanding is because words don't always mean the same thing to all people. And they don't even mean the same thing from one conversation to the next.
Right.
So people that don't have a quote-unquote disability, it's difficult. Communication can be difficult. I mean, that's what people joke about anyways. Like men and women speak a different language, right? You just think differently, speak differently. So, you know. But I was thinking about this that...
Does that make everyone aliens?
Pretty much. Pretty much. So I have some specific questions that I want to ask you about conversation.
Mm-hmm.
About conversations, all right? So I'm wondering, is it difficult for you to understand the nuances of conversation?
Sometimes, yes. I mean, I've gotten better at it over the years.
Mm-hmm. A lot better.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even I still have issues with knowing when a certain thing is being talked about that I don't realize that's what's being spoken about, you know? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, all of it.
Okay.
All of it. Whichever one, comes to mind, whichever one's bothered you lately or you've experienced lately or anything really, whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah.
Explain what you just said.
Okay. So one of the issues that I've had in the past and even up till present day is that there are nuances to what are being said, whether it be due to body language, whether it be due to sarcasm. Like, one thing that really gets me still is
mm-hmm.
sarcasm said with a straight face.
Right. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, any kind of dry humor, you really have to think about. But you get British humor.
Kinda, I guess.
Well, you like Monty Python.
Yeah, he's fairly filthy, though. Believe it or not.
Well, I believe it. I believe it. But you enjoy it. There's different things that will come up that, neat.
Yes. Yes. Things like that. Things like that, yes.
Yeah, that you enjoy.
Yeah. But even with that being said, it's not just British humor or American humor or anything else like that.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, it could be Brazilian humor and I wouldn't know.
Right. If it was sarcastic, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You seem to really be better all the time. It seems like you make an effort to really understand all forms of communication.
Yeah.
Is nonverbal communication, have you gotten better at that, or that's something that's still pretty difficult?
If there is an emotion going that's featured on somebody's face, or let's say someone shudders at the thought of a spider,
uh-huh.
Those are fairly straightforward concepts, you know what I mean? Where, yes, sometimes making out the correct emotion, and reading that as such can sometimes be confusing, and I still sometimes get those wrong. But overall, if it's an emotional response that's physically shown,
Mm-hmm.
it's more straightforward than, say, I can't even come up with a example.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, if somebody shudders because they see a spider,
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. Would you need them to verbally? Would you need to know that there was the spider there, or would they need to verbally say something about it? Or do you see that surprised, creeped out reaction means that whether it's a spider or something else, they just experienced something that
was unpleasant?
Yes.
It varies, and it could honestly be any or all of those.
Okay.
And it just depends on the situation of it. Like, let's say I see the spider.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably get the creeped out shudder.
Right. Well, one thing that that I'm not sure if that's gotten better for you or not,
Mm-hmm.
is that if you're having a conversation with somebody, does the way that they're sitting, or the way that, let's say if somebody's arms are crossed, or they keep looking away, do those kinds of things, are those things that you pick up on, or not necessarily?
Yeah.
Sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I've learned is that some people with autism can't focus. Most people with autism can't focus on keeping their eyes on who they're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one disability.
Right, sure. That's one aspect of it.
Yeah, that's one
Yes.
aspect of this disability. Who's to say that there's another one that am not more familiar with that has something like that? That is causing someone not to focus on someone else. Like, I'm not explaining this very well.
That's good to know. I thought maybe I wasn't hearing it very well.
No.
Yeah, so, okay. So, is what you're saying is that there's multiple layers here, so you might not even be aware of something enough to even know that you're not aware of it.
Let me put it this way. If someone is not looking at me in the eyes, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep looking around and everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
I know that's considered disrespectful to most people.
Okay.
But I also try and see it from their point of view, and try and give them the benefit of the doubt that that it might be difficult for them to do.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I get it now. Okay, so what you're saying is that I get it. You're saying from your point of view, when you're having a conversation with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you don't judge their behavior.
Right.
And what you're saying is they may have a difficult time with something that you're unaware of.
Yeah.
And just going at it with that mindset, you don't need to have them behave a certain way.
Yeah.
In a conversation. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I get what you're saying now.
That I've been told that makes me gullible in some instances, or naive, but I mean that's just the way I am.
I think that one of some ways that not only would I describe you, but those in your family that know you so well, would say that you're very kind and generous, and I guess naive to, I don't know, maybe that's what we all just, I don't know, we have some concerns, but
Yeah.
like when you go out, it's like call when you get someplace, call when you
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure I don't buy things for other people.
Well, yeah. And that was, yes, that was a tough one to teach you, because it's an awesome thing to be generous. It's an awesome thing to help other people out and to, and that's who you are. If you have it, then you're willing to share.
Yeah.
And, that's who you are. And that was a difficult concept, I think, to teach you, and also for you to really understand that and that was the conversation about not everybody is like you, so their motives are not as kind as your motives.
Right.
So in that regard, we had to have that conversation about just because there was a couple times that it was taken for granted or taken advantage of.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying now, and that is completely like you totally went in a different direction with that than I thought that we were going to go. So that's really cool. Yeah, I like that. Because what I'm talking about is if you're talking to somebody and they are looking around, that might be a sign that they're antsy, wanting to go, not focused on the conversation or whatever. And for you, what you're saying is you don't make assumptions because you don't know what's going on with somebody.
Right.
So for that person, for you, you're saying if that person doesn't want to be in the conversation, for example, well, they need to say it.
Yeah.
And do something about it rather than leave it up to you to guess or pick up on, maybe they're antsy to get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Wow. That's I think a unique way to look at it, Josh. I mean, your experience is pretty
I don't
cool.
think it's unique because
it's who you are.
Yeah, it's just what I do.
Right. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's really cool.
I don't really think of it in another way. It's difficult for me to actually, because I've tried to think about things through the way that
others.
Yes, that other people do, and it's like, how do you guys function?
Good question. Good question, because I think that we talked about this before too, is that you're the one that is said to have the disability, right?
Yeah.
Yet you have an understanding and the ability to move through certain things in life that, like bog, what is it? Dr. Ogilvy said, neurotypical.
Yes.
Neurotypical. So that was something that was new to me. I don't know if it's new out there, but it was fairly recently new to me. Mm-hmm. So somebody that is autistic, the counterpart, somebody that's not autistic, would be neurotypical. Right. Did I get that right? You're looking at me.
I think so.
Okay.
Like, what most society would consider normal people,
right,
would be considered neurotypical.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too.
Okay.
If we have it wrong, we'll clarify that.
Yeah.
Next time, but I think that's right.
Well, I disagree, but I mean, because I think normal is just an average. Not necessarily what's common, not necessarily what's uncommon. It's what most people say should be normal, or should be the average.
I think that you're absolutely right, and I think that it comes from society, what fits in, and what society as a whole along the way, long before we ever got here even, has said, this is, you have a broad spectrum here, and this is what we're going to consider, like you say, quote, normal. It's interesting because it's all about the perception, which is part of communication. So when we talk about nonverbal communication, and you have verbal communication, but then there's all that stuff that goes on that is not said out loud, that we're expected to understand and compute and take into consideration, and all that is part of conversation. And what I'm saying is that for anybody, when you think about all that, how are we ever able to do this? It just seems like it's like kind of a lot to process all at once.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. But I like that you've paid attention. Now, maybe not. Maybe you haven't paid attention. Maybe it's just that you get... Maybe it's just easy for you to get, who you are and how you think, and but it's through, I guess, me running my mouth to you all the time that it gets you to have these conversations, and maybe I'm the one learning. Maybe you've got it figured out, because a lot of it, you don't need the clarification. Say that I need.
Right.
And
sometimes vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to ask you about a few different kinds of communication and see what you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the other day you said something to me. You said that you don't naturally think to see multiple meanings of things.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain that? So something is said, and it could be taken more than one way.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we were talking about the other day, and to give you a context of this, we were talking about how things can be taken in more than one way, and that happens a lot of times through email or through text. Like a person doesn't get like you're saying, nuance. You don't get the nuance.
Right.
When you're getting a text from somebody.
Right. And yet it's funny because I get innuendo. It's so weird like that.
Yeah.
Like it's...
It seems kind of random.
Yeah, but I mean, what you were saying just now made me realize that I have friends who just say things and I initially take them at face value.
Right.
I have to make myself think, are they joking around and meaning something else as a joke?
Right.
Are they meaning something else entirely by what they say that's not meant as a joke and it's just like a hidden meaning? Or is it something else entirely? Right,
right. So with your friends, they do that enough that they're helping you to... But like your first inclination is... and
Heck, they might even be quoting something else and then just making a reference to it.
Yeah, but when you hear something, you take it at face value all the time, and then is this right? I'm asking you, like, you take it at face value all the time, and then you have to go down that process of there might be another possibility.
For the most part, yes.
Okay. So
there are times where I'm just on it, just like that.
Right.
But
right. So sarcasm is difficult for you too, then, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that you take things literally as well? So like if you have a literal meaning versus an exaggeration, you always take it literal first?
If it is at this point in my life, if I see something that makes absolutely no sense in from a logical standpoint, like that cow jumped over the moon, it was so happy. That's not logical.
Yeah.
We've
because the first time you ever heard that phrase was a long time ago. You said your answer was that is feasibly impossible. End of discussion. It was done. It was no computing. There was no comprehension at all. No wiggle room there for this to be anything that was even needs to be a conversation because it doesn't exist.
Right.
Right. And so you're saying that
I've learned to look for those kind of things. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Whether it's said or written or anything else like that. If it's an obvious falsehood, it's probably an exaggeration.
Right. Okay.
And so sometimes I have to double check that. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, for the most part, they're pretty straightforward in that regards.
Okay. That's really cool. That's pretty stinking awesome that you've gotten as you've matured, there's so many things that you really are able to, if you don't do them right off the bat, and it doesn't come natural, that doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, how cool is it that you have learned to recognize things for what they are, and even though you don't naturally comprehend something, you give it a couple beats and you're able to go to the next step.
Yeah.
I just think that's really cool.
Yeah.
What about so dry humor? It's like sarcasm. So that would be the one where somebody says something. It could be something hysterical, but because they're saying it with a straight face, you don't know what to do with that.
Usually, I end up asking them, "Are you being sarcastic or are you being realistic right here?"
Right.
And yeah, I'm being sarcastic.
Right.
Or yeah. So it's
right.
That's just one thing that I've had to adapt to do. Is if I don't understand it, or if I don't understand if it is supposed to be a joke or not, I ask.
Right.
Because I'm not going to learn otherwise. So why would I waste my time and your time trying to debate in my own head or whatever, whether or not you're joking or not? Well,
but in and of itself, what you just said is a big deal because you learn to do that.
Yes.
The things that we're talking about right now, I don't know. For people that don't know you and didn't see this or don't have the opportunity to have somebody with autism in their life, it's such and oh my gosh, it's just. So here it is, I have you thinking I'm going to teach you, and here it is, you're teaching me constantly. It's just pretty amazing. Yeah. But the fact that when you were growing up, these things were not a part of you.
Right.
So conversation, straightforward conversation, looking in the eye, communication back and forth was difficult.
Yes.
When we start talking today about all these other parts of communication, and yet that's why I'm saying this is so awesome that you're able to take it and it doesn't compute, you find a place for it.
Right. And with that example that you were just asking about dry humor, that reasoning that I said about why I need to ask, or so that I don't waste my time or your time trying to figure that out. That is one of the ways that I was able to get past it, was to use a rational, logical explanation for a reason to change something.
Okay.
And in this regard, that's a really big thing that can help, is that if I can explain something in such a way that it makes sense to me and to you, that's probably a better way to do it than to make it more difficult, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, then why shouldn't I try and do that with most things in my life and make it easier for not just you, but for me? And that kind of reasoning is one of the ways that I have bettered myself to make it so that I can not make it so I can understand things better, because heck, I still have trouble. But it makes it easier for me to remember to do these kind of things.
Okay.
Does that make any sense? I know it was kind of long-winded, but have a reason to change, and I'll make it better.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
That's what I was trying to say in a nutshell.
Okay.
Is
right.
That
what I was thinking about when you were saying that is that what makes that even more amazing is that didn't even come naturally to you.
Right.
Okay, so there was a time when communication was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
It did not matter who it was that was having a conversation with you, or
at least attempting to.
Right. and again, we always talk about the early intervention and the constant therapies.
Yeah.
You know, but it really has made a big difference. But what I want to say is that where you are right now, I would say in the past year, there has been so much growth, maturity, and the things that you might have been working on for your lifetime, really you're able to, in the past year, put them into action.
Yeah.
And, I'm just really proud of you. I am. I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about a couple things here.
Mm-hmm.
And, because I know now you're looking around the room. I'm taking that to mean that you're getting antsy.
No, I'm just looking at the layout of the room.
Okay. To make your escape. So there are a couple things here that I want to ask you about. So from what I understand, a concept is too abstract.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you're able to give me a straightforward example of it.
Okay.
Concepts are usually too broad.
Okay. So, likewise, words that imply an action, or an action is insinuated.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this not too long ago too. That we talked about the how if something is not really spelled out and very clear, the word itself might be an easily understood word, but the action that it is asking for or implies is another story.
Go clean your room.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I know exactly what you mean by clean my room. You want for it to look presentable.
Correct.
You want for it to be not have dust and trash all over the floor and stuff.
Right, and to smell decent.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's oddly specific. You trying to tell me something? No, but so one of the
so that's an action. That's an implied
Yes,
action.
that's where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had just lost my train of thought,
That's
so
okay.
I'm back again.
Okay.
So knowing what clean is
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily help me figure out how to get to that point. Like, I know that I need to sweep my room. I know that I need to vacuum the carpets. I know I need to dust. But putting them all into a logical step-by-step thing, a step-by-step order, that's where I run into difficulties.
Right.
Because there's variables for things, and it's... Or at least in this instance, there's different variables for things. Sure. And there may be things that I don't know what product to use, like what cleaning product, in this example again, where I don't know what I should do with it, with some of the excess stuff that isn't trash.
Sure.
And just so on and so forth.
So, it's not... What I know, what I've learned, is that that's not you being lazy, and that's not you trying to get out of cleaning your room.
Right.
Those two things I know, that I've learned. But to put it in a different, let's just say, if something is vague, because this kind of to me seems kind of. So there's words that an action is insinuated, and then there's words that are what I think are a concept. So if somebody said, "Hey, would you get me that thing from over there?"
Yeah.
Then, if somebody said to me, "Hey,"
and even with that example you just did, you even used your thumb to point in a general direction. That is making it more specific, and that's just a learned response from you, I think. In to help me.
Right.
Yeah, that or it's just a normal human thing, but I don't know.
Probably the first one.
Yeah.
Probably the first one with me, anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but what I'm saying is that if somebody said to me, "Can you get me that thing from the other room?" I would be like, "What do you mean? What? Huh? Who?"
Yeah.
And I would ask for clarification. Or I would be a smarty pants and bring them something totally random from the other room, and and so there's that way of dealing with it. If somebody, now we don't, I want to make it like everybody that has autism is the same way, but you've helped me to understand that because you go to groups and you're with multiple people that have autism, and you are able to look at behaviors and experience the just to take that in, that experience, and you're aware of how people are responding. So if that was said. So let's just say that I asked you that. So we're not suggesting that you are everybody that's autistic. It's just you. But based on what you know about all the people that you know that are autistic, what would happen? How would that be, not just from you, but maybe from others as well? So we can kind of give some pointers here on how to effectively communicate.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that for those people who have autism that have not had a lot of therapy or a lot of help, really, in regards, like professional help, because I would hope that the families are helping them as best they can.
Sure.
But even then, that's not always enough to help.
No, I would say to you it's not.
Yeah.
It is not.
So it's nothing against the families is what I'm saying. But if they don't have enough help and guidance from beyond the family, I know for a fact that most of them would be like, what was that example again?
So if you were asked...
No, just the example itself, not the situation. What was the question of it?
Go get me that thing from the other room.
They would break down. Not like and cry or anything like that, but that is so vague, and it's something that you're telling them to do, that it's a conflict of thought processes.
Okay.
In their heads.
Okay.
And for people that have had more experience with the beyond the family,
Mm-hmm.
we know to ask those questions. Like you had said, like to ask, what specific thing are you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Or which room are you talking about? Did you want me to look for whatever this thing is?
So what you're saying is that the types of conversation, a question that's vague for somebody that is autistic, that at varying levels, that either can be something that creates anxiety within them because they don't know what to do,
Yeah.
and they don't know what's being asked.
Yeah.
So from that level to, in your case, you're saying that you would know to ask.
Yes.
And and how it would, like, do you think that in the past, before you got to this point where you would ask,
Mm-hmm.
how would you handle that? Would it...
As much as I hate the term, I would sometimes shut down because of that. I mean, I've already explained,
Sure,
I think in the previous podcast even, how I feel about that.
About that term.
Yes.
Right. Because you feel very, like, your body is just the total opposite and is on edge, to the extreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's stressful, it's anxiety filled, and all those other things that it's like tearing yourself in two, worrying about this.
Mm-hmm. And so there have been times in your life when you've been asked a question and it wasn't clear, and that's how you felt?
Yeah.
That's it's a very difficult thing to go through, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can chuckle about it now a little bit, not mainly because
it looks like it's nervous laughter to me. like it's because like the expression on your face and everything is like, yeah, you're saying this, but you can just tell that it still is uncomfortable for you to think about what that's like.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, a lot of things, for example, that would be cringeworthy moments for you would induce these kind of feelings in me.
okay.
Like,
Okay, so if something makes me uncomfortable...
Like for example, let's say you're watching America's Funniest Home Videos.
Right.
And you absolutely know something is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the... Like, it's cringeworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, you're going to shudder. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, because you can see it coming. You know what's coming.
Yeah.
Right.
For myself and other people with autism, it is so much worse.
Right.
Because it induces that quote-unquote shut-down feeling.
Right. Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I can't watch some movies with you guys.
Sure.
Is because it induces that constantly, and it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
It's, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed because hearing you describe what you've gone through. Because if you think about it and what other people have gone through or going through, what you're talking about is the whole. I said the topic of this is conversation, right?
Yeah.
Is it about conversation, communication?
Yeah.
I guess is what I said it was, communication.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that the feeling of being unsure of what to do when there's the communication is not crystal clear that this is what is being asked of you. It sounds like it physically hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And is there anything that helps to overcome that, or is it just a matter of waiting?
Removing yourself from the situation as best you can.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be physically leaving the room,
Mm-hmm.
and after at least trying to explain that you can't be there for right now.
Sure.
That's my recommendation to try and do. But
well, right, but I'm thinking back on times that you were growing up and that you were not able to articulate this like you are today.
Yeah.
There were probably so many times where I might have thought that you were being a stinker. And
I haven't heard that term in a while.
and what probably was happening is you were feeling that uncomfortable anxiety.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That well, so something that I'm learning, and
Yeah.
it's,
I mean,
I feel that in my heart right now. It really makes me wish that I could do something for you, and I don't know. I just want to hug everybody, but I can't hug everybody. But I just want to.
well, you know what you can do?
It's one of those things. I just wish I could help.
Well, guess what?
What?
You are. With this podcast, you're helping it. You're helping other people, and you're helping me to talk about it. And so, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, two of the reasons, because one was for me and one was to help other people with their issues that they have.
Right. Right.
So you're already helping.
Wow. Well, thank you, Josh.
Regardless, I'll still give you a hug.
Okay. I think that's all we need to do today.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was very informative, and now I'm a mush pot, and I think we need to wrap it up. I do want to mention that you can find this podcast is posted a variety of places. I think it's on it is on my website, sonyaking.com. It's sonyaking.com. It's on iTunes. Some other places too that I can't recall.
I think Twitter's one.
It gets posted there. Sonya King Comedy, I think, is at Sonya King Comedy. If you're listening and you're getting something out of this, like it, share it, and let us know if you have any questions or share your thoughts with us, please. You can find us on Facebook, or you can always go to my website again, and you can just send us a message that way. And if it's to me or Josh, we'll get it. And we'd love to hear what you have to say. And if there's any subject that you're curious about that you'd like for us to do a podcast on.
Yeah.
Yeah. They cover everything here? Yeah?
Well, you still need to give me a hug.
Okay. I'm probably gonna boohoo a little bit, so we're gonna sign off before that. How's that?
Sounds
All right.
good.
Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us again. Love you.
Bye.